Yeah, start. Yeah, if you could start. Okay. Really? Ready to go? Yep. Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Planning Applications Committee. Can we introduce ourselves first? Because although we've improved the technology since the last meeting, so we are able to live stream this, there are still some councillors who can't actually be on camera for technical reasons. So can we just introduce ourselves to start with, please, and go around, and we'll do it alphabetically. I'm Jo Lovelock. I'm the chair of the Planning Applications Committee. Councillor Challenger.
Council Challenger for Catesgrove and the vice chair of this committee.
Councillor Carnell.
Councillor Paul Carnell, Thames Ward councillor.
Thank you. And Councillor Devine unfortunately can't be with us in person, but he is on the screen. So, but I just need to explain to people that unfortunately the legislation that we're now governed by means that although he's here virtually, he's not able to actually vote, but I will call him to speak whenever he wants to. I think it's unfortunate they haven't had some hybrid system for a while, given the current circumstances, but that's the legislation. So, Councillor Devine, do you want to introduce yourself?
What do I need now? Okay, I'm Ricky Devine, Lib Dem councillor for Tilehurst.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Yeah, Councillor John Ennis, Southcote Ward councillor.
Councillor Emberson.
Good evening, Chair. Councillor Ellie Emerson, Minster Ward councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Lang.
Mickey Lang, councillor for Whitley Ward.
And Councillor McEwen.
Good evening, Chair. Ruth McEwen, councillor for Church Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Page.
Good evening, Councillor Tony Page, Abbey Ward and lead member for Environment Planning and Transport.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Simon Robinson, representing Peppard Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Rowland.
Good evening, Chair. Councillor Karen Rowland, Abbey Ward councillor.
Councillor Stamford Beale.
Councillor Jane Stamford Beale, Peppard Ward councillor.
Councillor Josh Williams.
Good evening, Chair. Yes, Josh Williams, Park Ward.
And Councillor Rose Williams.
Good evening, Councillor Rose Williams from Catesgrove Ward.
Thank you all very much. I'll now introduce the planning officers and legal team. Richard Eatoff is the planning team leader, and he is actually here in person tonight, and he will advise the committee tonight on any matters relating to planning policy, guidance and practice. Julie Williams, the acting planning manager, will also be attending via Microsoft Teams. Case officers Alison Amoa, Ethne Humphreys and Matt Burns are joining us via Teams to present the applications in the reports this evening. Also joining by Microsoft team is Wendy Betterson, a solicitor in the Council's legal department, who will advise the committee on planning and local government law, and also Darren Cook, who will advise on any transport matters. Thank you. That's the introductions over with. Before we go on to the agenda, can I just ask either Richard or Julie to explain that there's an item on the agenda they would like to defer until next time?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's the item on 109B Oxford Road. I'm afraid some information came to officers this afternoon that indicated that the information that we had received in respect of the odour controls was not to the specification that was stated. We've managed to get hold of Environmental Protection today, and they agree with the case officer that it's not safe to proceed with the recommendation we have before you. So I'm very sorry, Chair and committee, but officers are again advising deferment on this item. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that. It's unfortunate, but we've got to get this right. So thank you for that. Which takes us on to the agenda. Last time's minutes. Is everybody in agreement that they're a correct record?
Can I just make one comment?
Yes, Devine.
Item 5 on the minutes is the permitted development rights. Could we possibly see the final version that went out from the council?
Yes, certainly. I know that you all had the opportunity to comment, and thank you to those who did. So could we make sure that's sent round to the whole committee, please? Thank you very much. No, thank you for raising that. So other than that, are we happy with the minutes, Councillor? No, it was delegated to send off, but we decided. Oh, I see. No, don't believe so. I think things get deferred quite often by officers on grounds there isn't the full information available for us to make the decision. I think if it was one of us asking to defer, it's a different matter. Thank you. Right, are there any declarations of interest? Don't see any hands, so assuming not, thank you. And then we do have a question from Councillor Josh Williams to tonight's meeting. Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Chair. Reading's local plan says the council will monitor buildings and other heritage assets at risk through neglect, decay or other threats, proactively seeking solutions for assets at risk, and as a last resort using its statutory powers. Can the Chair please tell us which at-risk buildings the council is currently monitoring, what proactive solutions it is seeking for those buildings, and can the Chair also tell us what are, in the last resort, the council's statutory powers? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Williams. Reading Borough Council currently has 2 buildings on Historic England's Heritage at Risk Register and 1 conservation area. The buildings are firstly a small part of the Abbey ruins, the Arch, and secondly Chasey Farm Tithe Barn. We're expecting that the Abbey ruins should be able to come off the list with all the elements having now been restored. Monitoring of Chasey Farm Barn has taken place since the work to protect the structure was carried out last year after a warning notice was served on the relevant parties. The conservation area at risk is the Castle Street, Russell Street, Oxford Road area. We have recently adopted a reappraisal and enlargement of this area, and initiatives currently being looked at through the High Street Heritage Action Zone programme with support from Historic England to remove the area from being at risk. In terms of other privately owned buildings at risk, using the resources that we have, discussions and internal inspection by officers would be carried out between council officers and the agents for the owners. If urgent works are needed to weatherproof the buildings and protect the building using powers provided by Section 54 of the Planning (listed building and conservation areas) (Act 1990), a schedule of works required for the urgent preservation of the building is drawn up and sent to all parties with an interest in that building, putting them on notice to carry out these works. This is an urgent works notice. If no action is taken, Section 55 of the same Act allows the council to undertake the works and then recover the costs from the interested parties. Other options include listed building enforcement notices under Section 38 and prosecution for any failure to comply under Section 43, and secondly, Section 215 (untidy site) notices. Thank you. Did you have a supplementary?
No, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for your interesting answer.
Thank you very much.
Chair, there was one little bit on the end of that. I was advised that there is also the option to the council of a compulsory purchase order for a listed building in needs of urgent works if the council deemed it expedient to do so.
People are happy for us to add that to the. Well, I haven't got the final. Word. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I've been out of email contact this afternoon for personal reasons, and I hadn't seen the final version, which I thought I'd been given. So are we happy for that to be added on? Yeah. Oh, it is actually in that. Okay. Right. Okay. Then we go on to planning appeals, and I think Julie Williams is going to introduce this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. Before I introduce the appeals, I hope it's okay for me to abuse the agenda slightly because we don't have our we used to have a normal item on your agenda for suggested sites for members' site visits for applications that are expected to be coming to Planning Applications Committee. So we are expecting to be bringing to you a plan application for the Bristol and West Arcade in the town centre, 173 175 Friar Street. The application references are 210163 for the full application and 210164 for listed building consent. And the application is to demolish the vacant former Bristol and West Arcade and to redevelop the site with including minor excavations at basement level to provide an 8-storey building to provide a hotel with 182 beds and the creation of a bar, restaurant, gym at ground floor level associated with the hotel, and the provision of ancillary facilities including outdoor terrace, demolition of rear parts of marketplace properties, and a change of use of the retained units on marketplace at first, second and third floors, etc. So the recommendation from officers is that members are given an accompanied site visit. We have done this before when we went to Parkside Road during the lockdown, and so obviously what we would need to do is contact you to confirm the date for the site visit, and then you confirm how many of you can attend, and then we can make arrangements for us to be able to safely visit the site before the next Planning Applications Committee. Thank you, Chair. So that's, I suppose I'm seeking agreement for that to be a site visit in July, it'll be early July.
So then can we agree that? Councillor Stamford Beale.
Can I just ask about the golf club, because I understand that application is coming before committee in July. Is there going to be a site visit for that?
That's a good point, actually. If members would like to have a site visit there, then that would be, I think we'd have to accommodate that too.
Well, I think it's a fairly major application, which is causing a lot of public interest. So I think it would be helpful if we could go there. So if we could add that to the list as well. Is everybody happy with that? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And from now on, we'll have this as a standalone item for future agendas. Thank you.
Councillor sorry,
Julie. I just want to get advice for those who don't know necessarily where that is, being a south of the river person. If you could advise on the details, and that would be helpful. And I know potentially it's a bit of an issue about COVID and going there, you know, that's a bit of an issue, but I would like advice on that if possible. I'm not saying everyone else would, but me particularly. You know, what I'll be looking for, because it's a big site, isn't it?
It is a big site, but on the other hand, it's a golf course, so I suspect there'll be more open space for the air to circulate than there will be down at Bristol and West Arcade. But you know, it does need to be COVID safe. You're quite right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what we can do with that one is we need to seek guidance from the owners. But if they are happy for members to visit, you know, on their own with a briefing note, like we used to do sometimes, then we could do that for those who want to visit when they can. For the Bristol and West one, though, that would have to be accompanied because of, you know, we need to make sure that you've got the right equipment on to go into that building. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then you just want to report on the.
Oh yes, thank you. So on the really, I was going to say nothing to add to the report apart from clarifying that the item that appears against 34 Eldon Terrace has come onto your agendas by mistake. So apologies for that. That's you know, that's already pending. We're about to do the public inquiry for that one. So apologies for that, but nothing to add to that report other than that. Thank you.
Anybody? Councillor Page.
Sorry to go back to Bristol and West, Chair. Can Julie indicate whether we might be able to see also the Bristol and West application encompasses the old Coopers, which we've had a separate site visit recently. Scaffolding is now gone up. Work is, we understand, underway. Whilst I'm not saying we need necessarily get back into that part of the application, it would be useful to have an update on what is happening, because we spent a long time inside the Coopers, which was helpful. But I think whilst I'm not asking for us to go back there on the site visit, it would be helpful as it relates to the application to have an update as well.
Yeah, are you happy to have that update as part of that site visit, or did you want it now?
Oh, well, no, I would have thought it was the site visit. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
Has anybody got any other comments on the planning appeals? No, not seeing anybody, so note that. Thank you very much. And then the final item before we get on to planning applications to be determined is the applications for prior approval report. Again, Julie, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Very, very short and sweet. Nothing to add to the report. Thank you.
Anybody got any questions or comments? No, can we note that then? Thank you very much. We now get on to the planning applications to be determined. We already know that item 6 has been deferred, but I'd like to take item 9 first before the other applications, because we do have public speaking on this. So I understand Matthew Burns is going to introduce the report, and then we'll ask for the public statements to be made.
This one's Alison Anwar, Chair.
Can you hear me okay? It's Alison here.
Yes, thank you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
That's fine, thank you. The application site is an existing retail park on the southern side of Rosekiln Lane, to the east of the A33 and to the west of Morrison's Supermarket on Basingstoke Road. The residential area of Kenny Island lies to the southwest, and further commercial development to the north and south. 2 related applications are for your consideration this evening. 201853 is for the overall redevelopment of the site to create 2 B2/B8 logistics warehouses with their own service yards and staff parking areas. This proposal is presented as a phased scheme, with Unit A to the east as Phase 1 and Unit B as Phase 2. If only Unit A Phase 1 were developed under the main application, this would be alongside the retention of some of the existing retail units. The other application, reference 201842, would therefore only come into force if only Unit A were built. And that application essentially seeks to amend and consolidate conditions attached to historic permissions covering the whole site as retail. The recommended conditions include restricting specific goods for sale, the number of units selling particular goods, and the sizes of units. The recommended conditions largely reflect wording attached to those historic permissions, but adjusted to relate to the retained unit numbers. The applicants are seeking as much flexibility as possible for the future use of the site, and hence are seeking permissions which would provide a number of possible options in the context of the changing retail sector and demand for logistics operations. The key issues raised through consultation include with respect to noise, transport matters, landscaping, and green walls and green roofs. In terms of noise, the Environmental Health Officer was concerned about likely noise levels, especially at night, associated with the use of the service yards and the impact on nearby residents at Kennet Island. Neighbour consultation responses also raise this issue, as well as with respect to the use of alarms, and this is reiterated in the submitted written statement by Mr Boulding, as included in the update report Appendix 1. In response, the applicant has extended the proposed 4-metre high acoustic fence, which would be on the western and the parts of the southern boundary adjacent to the service access for Unit B and the service yard of Unit A, and suggested the inclusion of a condition requiring the submission of a service yard management plan, and having submitted and discussed with officers the types of matters these could include and the success of these elsewhere, documented in national studies as a means to reduce noise levels by up to 10 dB. The Environmental Health Officer has accepted this as a suitable approach. In addition, and following the publication of the update report yesterday, the applicant has contacted officers to suggest the inclusion of a further condition related to the testing of security and emergency alarms to be within specified hours and within specific noise levels. The Environmental Health Officer has confirmed that this approach would also be welcomed. With regard to transport matters, a number of amendments have been made during the course of the application, including moving the access to Unit A staff car park, setting the gate further back for access into Unit A service yard from Gillette Way, demonstrating suitable visibility displays, and providing a tracking plan to demonstrate safe left-hand turns for HGVs into the site from Rosekiln Lane, achieved with some widening at that point. As that widening may impact on a retained tree, a condition is recommended in the update report requiring the submission and approval of a replacement tree, if required, once detailed highway plans are produced. The Transport Development Control Manager is now satisfied that the scheme would be acceptable in transport terms, subject to conditions and informatives as listed in numbers 31 to 40 of the main report and the amended condition in the update report. All landscaping matters as raised by the Natural Environment Officer, summarised in paragraph 6.55 of the main report, have been addressed through amended plans to the officer's satisfaction. The Natural Environment Officer also requested that consideration be given to green walls and green roofs. The applicant's further explanation for not including these is within the update report. Such measures are within a range of possible measures set out in policy to ensure development meets sustainability requirements, and the scheme would achieve a policy compliant excellent BREEAM rating using other measures. Officers consider that the overall design of the buildings, along with the enhanced landscaping, improve the appearance of the site and would be consistent with the largely commercial nature of the area and the proposed function of the buildings. The proposal includes using different textured materials, floor to ceiling glazing to reduce the perceived size and mass of the buildings. There are material sample boards available for you to view within the chamber, I think below the camera. And in conclusion, the proposal would contribute to delivering industrial warehousing floor space in accordance with national and local policies, and would meet local economic policy objectives by providing a storage and logistics site, and would specifically bring jobs to South Reading where deprivation in terms of skills is high. The scheme would improve surface water runoff rates, provide a net gain in tree planting and ecological enhancements. Overall, subject to suitable mitigation measures controlled through conditions, officers consider this to be a supportable scheme, and it is therefore recommended for approval, subject to conditions and informatives within the main and update reports. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We have a statement from Adam Boulding. I don't know, I hope everybody's seen it. It's on the back page of the update pack. And he's not here in person, I understand. But because the statement's been submitted for our consideration, the applicant is also entitled to make a statement. So is there anything more we need to do with regard? No, as long as everybody's confirming they've seen the statement. Thank you. So we also have, as I say, the applicant wishing to speak, and I believe he's on the phone. Simon, if you could.
Chair, you just need to ask Mr. Rainbird to unmute himself and then he can be able to speak.
Could you unmute yourself, please, and then we can ask you to introduce yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you. Would you like to introduce yourself to the committee, and then you'll have up to 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So good evening, Chairman and fellow councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Tim Rainbird and I'm the planning agent acting on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. When you're ready. Yes, when you're ready.
Excuse me. By way of introduction, the applicant is Mayfair Capital Investment Management, a specialist UK real estate investment manager who have recently acquired Brunel Retail Park. The retail park comprises 13 retail units, 3 are currently vacant and 3 are at risk of becoming vacant due to recent administrations. The UK retail sector is undergoing structural changes that have been accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a consequence, many retail park owners are reviewing their options, including repurposing all or part of those sites for alternative uses. By comparison, the logistics market has been remarkably strong over the last 18 months. The pandemic again has acted as an accelerator, with a huge demand increasing in online shopping in particular, which is placing importance on urban logistics sites. Demand for high quality, well located logistics facilities is therefore strong, and this is expected to continue. Before you this evening are 2 applications which perhaps reflect the condition of the 2 sectors: logistics rapidly expanding and retail contracting. To ensure the needs of the 2 sectors are met with adequate flexibility to adapt, the redevelopment of Brunel Retail Park is proposed to be phased. The planning applications have been the subject of lengthy pre-application discussions with officers. All comments were taken into account when submitting the comprehensive schemes. The planning applications have successfully addressed all relevant planning policies, as confirmed in the officer report. There are no objections from either statutory consultees or interdepartmental teams, and there are just 3 representations from local residents. It has been confirmed that the developments will not have an adverse impact on the local highway network, and there will be no unacceptable impact on neighbouring residential amenity. Protecting residential amenity has been central to the design development process. In response to the 3 points raised by the Kennet Island Reading Residents Management Company, I would like to offer the following. First, we can confirm the proposed industrial units will have new modern alarms installed. To provide comfort on this point, a further planning condition has now been put forward by the applicant, as you have heard from the case officer. This states that the testing of security or emergency alarms can only take place during daytime hours, and alarms will be positioned and directed to meet the audibility requirements only where employees will be located on site. This condition will be in addition to the provision of a 4-metre high acoustic fence along the southern and western boundaries of the site, and the requirement for a service yard management plan to be submitted prior to occupation. We can also confirm that waste bins are proposed to be located within secure compound enclosures with lockable gates, preventing access by members of the public. In addition, the waste bins will be lockable inside the compounds, providing a further deterrent. Finally, in terms of concerns raised about HGV movements through Kennet Island, given the proximity of the application site to the A33 junction and direct access of Rosekiln Lane, we see no reason why HGVs would route through Kennet Island. Clear signage to the site will nevertheless be provided to further mitigate this risk. Overall, the proposed development will result in significant benefits to the local area, including the creation of jobs and investment into the local economy. The proposal presents an opportunity to make more efficient use of the site by providing high quality modern logistics units, creating much needed employment floor space, satisfying identified local demand. The creation of jobs will be assisted through the submission of employment skills and training plan in conjunction with Reading UK CIC, which is to be secured by planning condition. The development will also be highly sustainable, achieving a BREEAM excellent rating, including the provision of air source heat pumps and roof mounted photovoltaic cells, and achieve biodiversity net gains. The proposed sustainable development is in line with market requirements and is compliant with both national and local planning policy. The site benefits from being located within the A33 corridor, and the submitted scheme delivers a development which is compatible with its location, providing new jobs and investment. The phased approach to the application will also enable the applicant to respond to changing market demands, ensuring local needs are met. The application is recommended for approval, and I hope that you're able to support your officer's recommendation. Thank you for your time this evening, and please do not hesitate to ask me any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you would stay on the line, we may have some questions. Any questions? Councillor Lang, yep, and then Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Rainbow, for your representation. It's just clarification on a point raised by Mr. Boulding surrounding the alarms on site. At the moment, the existing alarms do disturb Kennet Island residents, especially at night time, can be going on for hours and hours. It says that the new specification will be determined during the detailed design stage. Can you involve councillors and maybe residents at this stage, please?
Thank you, Councillor. If I can respond, so we've taken that point a stage further, and the additional planning condition that's been put forward that you won't have seen a copy of actually will state that those alarms, or certainly the testing of those alarms, can't take place at night. And there's a further requirement that the alarm sounds can't exceed certain limits that are specified within the noise assessment. So I believe that the new condition will provide the comfort that you're looking to achieve.
Yes, yes, thank you. It's it's just so they'll be time limited, will they? The alarm going off?
So the alarm testing will be time limited, but the alarm volumes themselves will be pared back effectively to the controls within the noise assessment. So there's a new planning condition that prescribes that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Josh Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you very much for talking to us this evening. You mentioned the biodiversity net gain, and in the report before us, section 6.62 says that there'll be a biodiversity net gain of 12.4%, and that's for the overall scheme, as I understand it. Could you confirm that there'll still be a biodiversity net gain were you only to implement phase 1 and to then stop there, leaving the rest as retail?
Thank you, Councillor. I can't explicitly tell you whether there will be a percentage increase in net gain, but from my understanding of the calculations that have been undertaken, albeit we still need to run the numbers specifically for phase 1, the balance of landscaping in particular from the existing situation to the proposed would suggest there would definitely be a net gain, but the applicant would be happy to have a condition which, in the event that only phase 1 was brought forward, to demonstrate that a net gain was achieved to ensure full policy compliance. I mean, I note that the policy itself is flexible. There isn't a prescriptive requirement to achieve the gain. We've set out to achieve a gain, but I can't answer explicitly your question, albeit we could accept a condition requiring a net gain to be demonstrated if that would provide comfort.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'll request that condition. Thank you very much.
I can't see anybody else indicating to ask a question, so thank you very much for your time. And please stay on the line to listen to our deliberations. Thank you. Which takes us on then to committee debate on this. Councillor Lang, I believe you wanted to speak on this.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I support this application. I would just like to reiterate, as Whitley Ward councillors, a point raised by Mr. Boulding about he wanted no through route for HGVs going through Kennet Island. There isn't a through route for HGVs, and there never will be. So that's, I'd just like to make that point clear. So for the Kennet Island residents, thank you.
Councillor Ennis.
Yes, I can make a few comments if that's all right. Thanks ever so much for the report and for the contributions. As someone who's born and brought up in South Reading, and I'm very proud of that, and I get every chance to tell people that I'm a Whitley person. My memory growing up in Whitley was that was a huge industrial area all along there. We had Courage's Brewery, we had Gillette's. I remember Gillette's being a massive employer. We used to go to the social club, but that's beside the point. I'm rambling. And there used to be units all the way down there. And of course, the change was to retail. And when I was reading this report, I was really refreshed. I think it's a report that could be the future. And that's why I very much welcome it. Very much welcome and support this. And really note about the BREEAM excellence and the effort that's been made to be compliant on energy efficiency and carbon as much as possible, because what we got here is jobs. We got jobs, and what I would want to see written in, I can't do it, is jobs for the residents of South Reading. I think they would very much welcome it, albeit taking into consideration the issues that the councillors in South Reading have put into about the issues of HGVs and also taking residents into consideration. I think it's really important when we're looking at these sort of developments that residents who live there are considered very highly and their life is not impacted. And apart from that, I really welcome it. And I also welcome the general logistics. It was interesting to what the agent said about the change of use, because again, growing up, retail, out of town retail was the future. Retail, and that is changing whether we like it or not. We're trying to oppose it, obviously, in the centre of the town, but areas like this are going to find it problematic in the future about retail when more and more young people are going online. And that's something that we might not like, but it don't seem to be going away. And I think logistics and change is a really good way of looking at how we can mitigate the potential negative impact on the closure of retail. So I really do welcome your comments on what you had said. And also I would say, as a councillor for 20 years, but I know that some of my colleagues have been here for a long time, one of the reasons why this Labour Council, and I do use the word Labour Council, has been successful with Reading, as a Reading person, I would say that, being a Labour person from Reading, is that Reading has always been open for business, has always been open to welcome new ideas and new businesses and new focus into our town. And I really welcome this. And I would like to see more. I would like to see how we can do this with other areas, and to see how this gets on and to make sure that the residents are not impacted, but creating jobs of this sort of thing. And let's hope they're good jobs, well paid and secure. That would be even better. Very much welcome. So I'm not going to apologise for the length of my comments, but I do think Reading being open for business for this type of development is very much something I would welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Josh Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, yes, I would like to formally request that we add a condition of net gain being demonstrated at phase 1, if that's okay. Obviously, the applicant was okay with that, and I'm grateful for his words, like Councillor Ennis's as well. Of course, it's slightly disappointing not to see green roofs, green walls. The cost is prohibitive, the applicant tells us, and if it's too expensive, then this won't happen, and it won't bring the jobs that Councillor Ennis is talking about to South Reading. But of course, it is disappointing. It'd be great to see that kind of thing included in the future. I wonder what the cost of not putting green roofs and green walls will be in the end. But it would be good to support this. It would be good to see a biodiversity net gain, and I'm grateful for the applicant for suggesting that additional condition. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to put forward a thought, because Councillor Leng mentioned before about that there is no through route, and there never will be a through route for HGVs going through the residential area. However, having said that, within the written statement, it says today we have many HGVs for the site at Brunel Business Park trying to cut through. So actually cutting through the residential area. So it's not a question of there being a through route as such. Obviously, HGVs are causing issues by taking shortcuts through the residential area. And surely what Mr. Boulding is saying is, could we as a council put down signs trying to dissuade HGVs from using the residential area to cut through? So I think we're missing the point, or maybe Councillor Leng was missing the point in terms of what the Residents Association are after, in that we as a council should be making or taking action against the HGVs that are using the residential site as a cut through. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lane, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, it's just to clarify my position. I mean, I don't believe HGVs can cut through Kennet Island legally. They may go down a bus route, which is illegal, and I'm sure the cameras would pick up on it. There's width restrictions down there. HGVs have been, as a problem, raised by residents. It's normally because when they come in to do their deliveries, because there is no through route, they have to turn round. Gillette have been very good working with local councillors. They've got trained banksmen, in the yard turning trucks around. I believe personally, HGVs do not cut through Kennet Island from Morrison's side to the 833. Okay, thank you.
Okay, but it would be helpful potentially to have some further signs up, and maybe we could ask the officers to comment on what might be possible as part of this, as well as the other suggested additional planning conditions, and in particular the one about alarms and involving the ward councillors and the biodiversity net gain issue that was also proposed by Councillor Williams. So could we ask for officers to just respond to those points, in particular what we might be able to suggest in terms of signage to make it absolutely clear that HGVs have no route through?
I'm not. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I note that Darren has just appeared, so he may want to comment. Darren, do you want to comment?
Yeah, happy to comment. I think historically there may have been some vehicles that were using Kennet Island as a rat run to get through the site. It's obviously difficult in terms of its design to get vehicles through, and I think there's been issues historically about drivers using sat navs which would identify that as a potential route, and if vehicles are using sat navs, then even signage would make that difficult, because vehicles would already be turning into Kennet Island from either route before they get to that point. In some respects, the application isn't significantly worsening an existing situation with vehicles and HGVs travelling through the site. So I think from an application point of view, it would be difficult to justify a kind of a mitigation on the back of the application. It may be something that would need to be raised separately through the network management team to review signage in the area and restrictions if they can be implemented. I'm not quite sure it'd be something that we could put on the back of the application, given the kind of limited impact it would have against the existing operation.
But we could make a reference across to traffic network management and ask them to bring forward some suggestions on how we can improve the signage. Councillor Leng, were you indicating again?
Yeah, Chair, just one more point. I'm not denying that a rigid could get through around the outside, but a 38-ton, truck and trailer, I doubt could wheel its way around. It may have happened occasionally, but I wouldn't call it a rat run. Thank you.
Sorry, it's Julie here.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can come in here. Sometimes on developments like these, we have delivery plans, like delivery management plans for when the site is operational, but also construction management plans where we have haul routes provided. Darren, I'm asking you this question through the committee. Would it be reasonable to require the developers to provide, as part of those conditions, their routes, proposed routes, and to make sure that that includes information to drivers to not to use these alternative routes to get to the site?
Yeah, I'd be happy with that to be added to the conditions. Obviously, the drivers would be based at those locations, so they would know the routes to and from the site, know where to go. It's not like, say, the previous retail parking. There may be elements from the retail park with the drivers that aren't associated with those sites, and they're coming from larger depots. So I would be happy with those being included in the conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Chair. One more point. A lot of the businesses down there use a stacking system where the deliveries have to phone in 15 minutes before and they're stacked outside the area. Maybe that would be an idea that could be maybe used. Thank you.
Can I suggest that we have a condition which takes on board all those points, and perhaps we could finalise that in consultation with myself and the Vice Chair and the ward councillors, as well as the other additional conditions that were suggested, one about the biodiversity, and also involving ward councillors in the discussions about the alarms and testing and so on, which have been causing such a nuisance. So have you captured all that? Is that sufficient for the additional conditions that we would like to see added? And thank you to the applicant for offering some of those up anyway.
I would just like to check with the case officer chair if she's Alison, are you clear on how the biodiversity condition might be worded?
I can't. Yes, I would be able to generate some suggested wording, but probably not on the hoof now. But yeah, I think I've understood sufficiently, and then we can consult as required.
Thank you. So suggest we have delegated authority to do that, then, Chair.
Is there anything else anybody wanted to ask or say? If not, can we move to a vote on this? And as we know, we can't see everybody on camera, but can I first of all ask if everybody is in favour? And if I see all hands up, then I hope that that's sufficient. And there's nobody indicating other than in favour. So can we conclude that that is carried? Thank you very much.
Chair, sorry, excuse me. Can I abuse the agenda as well again? We've got legal advice on item 6 that we really should have taken a vote from members to defer. I'm afraid. Could we capture this?
Okay, well, let's go back. Are we happy we've dealt with item 9? And we'll go back to item 6 and ask, is everybody happy that we defer on officer advice that application? Everybody? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And then we go on to item 7, which is Matthew Burns. My apologies for muddling up officers earlier, which is the Queen Victoria Street and Friar Street application, page 49. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This item relates to numbers 1 to 15 Queen Victoria Street and numbers 147 to 148 Friar Street, which are Grade 2 listed buildings. 2 applications are under consideration today, which are an application for full planning permission and also an application for listed building consent for associated works. The proposals incorporate a number of different elements, including demolition of rear outbuildings and creation of a public square, creation of 2 passageways through to the public square, one from Queen Victoria Street and one from Friar Street, removal of existing modern shop fronts and their restoration back to a uniform style consistent with their original appearance. We also have internal alterations and part 3, part 2, part single story rear extensions to the listed buildings to facilitate a change of use of the upper floors from office to a 41 unit apart hotel, and change of use of existing retail units within the site to a flexible shop or cafe restaurant use, together with creation of 5 new retail units within the rear square under the same flexible use. The proposals repair and restore facades of the building frontages, including the repair and 12 terracotta fronted roof gables. A detailed assessment of each of the elements and the development of the whole is set out within the main agenda report. In short, officers consider that the proposed mix of uses, including provision of a small public square, are appropriate within the town centre and make imaginative use of a currently underused and inaccessible part of the town centre. The proposed extensive works to the listed buildings is considered to result in a number of significant benefits, including restoration of all the existing shop fronts back to their original appearance, and the extensive repair and restoration works of the upper facades of the building frontages, which is the principal source of their heritage significance. A number of conditions are recommended to secure submission and approval of detailed material schedules, samples and plans for the various elements of the works to the listed buildings. Detailed noise, air quality reports, as well as a draft management plan for the operation of the square and the Park Hotel have been submitted in support of the application, and subject to the recommended conditions and the Section 106 obligations, officers are satisfied that the development would be able to operate in a manner which would protect the amenity of both existing and the future occupiers. The proposals also include a scheme of hard and soft landscaping for the rear square, a small area of green roof, and 2 decentralised energy sources. In terms of the overall planning balance judgment, officers consider that the proposals represent a significant number of benefits and a net gain in terms of heritage benefits across the site. Even if any heritage harm was to be identified, it is considered that this would amount to less than substantial harm, which, in accordance with the National Planning Policy Framework, is required to be balanced against the public benefits of the scheme. Officers considered that the benefits of this scheme would outweigh this harm. The officer recommendation is to grant full planning permission, subject to the recommended Section 106 obligations and conditions, and to also grant listed building consent, subject to the separate recommended conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for a very thorough report. I've got Councillor Rowland and then Councillor Devine and then Councillor Challenger indicating. Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Matt Burns for this report. I would, I know with my ward colleagues, like to commend this application very much so and welcome it in Abbey Ward and the town centre as being the type of heritage-led regeneration that our town is really needing and craving. This hits right on so many levels, and it has been greatly appreciated throughout. I know that they engaged. I want to thank them also for engaging early with ward colleagues and their extensive engagement to try to reach community groups, which is a challenge in the town center, but they managed to do it. And the civic society was actually able to put on quite a large and active online engagement in regards to the application. It's rare that you actually get an application where people don't complain and indeed compliment and have little to egg on about. But this is truly one of those applications. The ideas of bringing it back and appreciating the heritage that is right in there and amongst the listed buildings there, the attention to the terracotta details, the attention to restoring storefronts back to their original appearance are all details of a really well thought out heritage regeneration project. And I know that this is something that will benefit the town center for a long period of time, and also residents of Reading and even out-of-towners that come to Reading. So I'd like to commend this to colleagues and thank the developer again for his wonderful work on this to date. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Devine is coming to speak to us from the screen.
I will try. Well, I echo everything that Councillor Rowland has just said, really. This looks like a really innovative use of space. It's creating what is essentially a new public space with full regard to the heritage of the town centre site. My only query was on hopefully that we get the right numbers of small independent retailers to fill all the units that are going to become available. But I presume the developers know what they're doing, and so that I was just a query really on because I wouldn't like to see this scheme go ahead and then not find enough of the small independent retailers to fill it. So that just a word of caution, I think. But no, this is a really amazing development, and I hope that everybody's going to agree to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Challenger.
Thank you very much, Chair. I won't take too long because definitely echo my previous speakers. I think it's a really interesting and exciting application. Queen Victoria Street is, one of my favourite streets in Reading. It's great to see something with so much love and appreciation going into it, and to have such a well-formed application. Thanks to officers and the developers for doing it. And hopefully, this is a scheme that is trying to have its cake and eat it, and hopefully it'll be realised that something, there's inspiration for other areas, and especially with the work that's going on further along the town on the High Street Heritage Action Zone, that this will serve as some suitable inspiration for work around that. And I think especially with the shop fronts, it's something that is often viewed as an add-on and an end. And I think actually to see something so refined and simple really adds to the town, especially on such a gateway route from the train station.
Thank you. Councillor Page.
Chair, thank you, and can I endorse the comments that others have made. Just picking up on Councillor Devine's point, there's no shortage of independent retailers in Reading. The issue is whether the owners of properties will pitch their rents at a realistic starter level that will enable those small businesses to get started. And there is evidence that if there is one of the few good things that the pandemic has delivered, is that rentals have gone down or are not as high as they were, and there is evidence already of a number of small independent retailers getting more prominent places in the town centre, and long may that continue. And I'm sure that Thackeray Estates, who are developing this, are well aware of the need to ensure that those smaller units are occupied as soon as possible. That just brings me on to the other point. In their design and access statement, so this is a public document, Thackeray Estates, the developers here, also list a considerable number of other buildings that they own around the town centre. And I very much hope that the quality of the development that we are seeing and hopefully approving this evening will be reflected in other proposals that they bring forward. Not all of them, I hasten to add, are listed buildings of the same quality as here, but certainly I am very encouraged by their commitment shown in this development, and hoping that in discussions that they will have with ourselves and planning officers, the level of quality will be replicated in other future developments. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. I'm not seeing anybody else. Did the case officer want to add anything? I think it's probably all been said, but if you did have anything you wanted to come back on.
No, nothing further from me, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, can we move to a vote on this then, please? And all those in favour of this application, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Can I just check, Chair, that was for both the planning and the listed building consent?
Yes, indeed. And then we go on to the final item this evening, which is item 8, 61 Baker Street. Richard, I believe you're introducing this.
Thank you, Chair. Listed building consent is sought for repair works at 61 Baker Street. Your application is being presented to the committee as the applicant is a councillor and mayor. Works proposed seek to repair 3 rear-facing window frames. The repair works involve cutting out rotten wood and replacing, and then painting. The use of slimline double glazing is considered acceptable in this instance and not harmful to the character and appearance of the listed building. Proposed works are considered minor, would not cause material harm to the Grade 2 listed building or its surrounding, and are therefore in accordance with policies EM1 and EM3 of the Reading Borough Local Plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We did wonder if we ought to go on a site visit, but I am only joking. Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, we are aware that this is the home of the mayor. And as much as I would like to give him a ribbing, I'll actually have to give him a thumbs up for his proposal here to take care of the rear windows of his listed property. I would actually like to, from a heritage point out the fact that it is not only a listed building, it's a building in a conservation area, and it is very indicative of actual good work in terms of how listed buildings and heritage buildings can meet the current climate challenge emergency that we have too. The use of slender pane, slimline double glazing in the timber frame structure that he's got is actually quite good for heritage buffs. I can assure you that the very slim line, you really do not get this perceivable double image kind of reflection, which is the sticking point for many heritage aficionados. Then that can be sufficiently answered by the use of slender pane, slimline, double glazing. So the fact of the matter is that as we look to deal with heritage buildings and listed buildings and how they will address the climate emergency and become good thermally insulated buildings, double glazing can be very important. So you can either use a double glazed window, or else you can have a secondary glazing behind a single pane window that also gives you very good results. This would be a slightly more expensive version to that, but it's very good, and I would hope that it could be actually used as an example for those that are wondering what to do with their heritage homes, and note that double glazing of timber frame windows can be done. The comment in 6.5 about the existing window horns is a little bit too technical to go into, but I am sure that the mayor will probably find that the horns will be not needed in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stamford-Beale.
Thank you very much. I can say I have done a site visit to this site, and it is a very well looked after listed building, and I am pleased to see that it is repairing the existing timber framed sash windows rather than trying to rip them out and replace them with UPVC. It is much better. I personally have lived in a Victorian house. It wasn't listed, I might say, but when I was 8 months pregnant, we took all the windows out and sanded them down, rehung the sashes, and it was just amazing how good they looked. And you know, it is something that we really should be encouraging people to do, is to repair their sashes rather than ripping them out and using UPVC. So I very much commend this application to the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis, the last word.
I feel I need a right reply here, because I am still smarting from our application to try and get cost of value UPVC, I can't even say it, from a yard, but you wouldn't know they were 10 yards away. But the serious point I will make is that it would be good for the council, because you know, in all seriousness, that was a OAP's place where they didn't have the money, they were struggling. I'm not saying the mayor is wealthy, and you know, I'm not saying that, but what would be good is if we had best practice, good practice, you know, companies, or I know we can't advertise that, but some good advice, that because it was very difficult to get good value for money, you know, working on windows, heritage windows that weren't really too expensive. And I think if we could think about that without promoting companies, I feel like I'm heading for the Tory party the way I'm talking about business tonight. But I think it's really important that we do that. If we could try and find good value for money heritage work, I think that would be really helpful. But we will return for our UPVC windows one day.
On that note, seriously, can we please move to a vote on this one? All those in favour? Again, that is unanimous. Thank you all very much and good night. Don't expect such a quick meeting next time.